السلام عليكم. لا تنسوا الإعجاب بالفيديو والاشتراك في القناة تشجيعا لنا لنستمر بنشر المزيد إن شاء الله.
If your husband is nervous, if your husband is selfish, and if your husband is jealous, and if your husband is miserly, and if your husband is reverent. Even if your husband is stubborn. If your husband is married. If your husband beat our mood. Even if your husband pills. Even if your husband is jealous. Even if your husband is heavy. If your husband is poor and poor. If your husband is a harem. If your husband loves a harem. If your husband was a hero. If your husband is afraid of drinking. If your husband is walking in the forbidden. I say you will know how to deal with your husband if he has one of all these qualities. If you want to know, you will deal with your husband. I will tell you, just before I tell you. Support me Blake and subscribe to the channel. Look, my love, dealing with your husband has its origins and art. And it is very important that you know how to deal with your husband. Because lack of knowledge and wrong behavior leads to the aggravation of family problems and disputes between you. And this is a very dangerous matter. It is not possible to deal with all husbands in the same way. Because each husband has his personality, nature, principle, customs and traditions. It must be dealt with in a different way. In what follows, I will explain to you how to deal with your husband. If your husband is of the calm and sedate type and has a cold temperament, this may sometimes make you feel uncomfortable and reassured. Not a quiet person. He is a distinguished and positive character, where his decisions are correct. Because it is after deep thinking and also faces problems in a rational and sober manner. Far from rushing, there are some tips for dealing with your husband if he was calm. Give your husband more affection and love that he needs as a first step. This helps him to start talking as a first step. Interact with her, or he has some problems related to his work, which should not be discussed at home. He thinks it takes a long time to rest. He relaxes his mind from thinking about the problem. And your consideration that the reason for his calmness may be due to thinking about your future and the future of your children. It is preferable to listen to you to know everything you dream about. He is working to achieve it for you, and here you should try to choose the appropriate topics to talk to him about. And work on his participation in solving it. And if your husband is a nervous type, you should be careful, because if you talk to him in any talk, he will anger and make him glow. This turns the world upside down, and it's a problem for you. But an honest wife can deal with her husband very appropriately, where the severity of nervousness increases with the pressures of life and daily burdens. And here you should be aware that your treatment with your husband is very cautious. And be wise and calm, and there are some tips and instructions in order to deal with your nervous husband calmly and correctly. First, you must find out why your husband is nervous. What topic makes him get out of his senses? Because knowing the cause of nervousness is half the solution to the problem. You must be patient and wise. to absorb your husband's nervousness. And you must show him that life is not without problems. To tell her what is the reason for his anger. And for the wife to contain her husband and to contain the situation under her arm. And contain the situation intelligently by not responding to him during his nervousness and his anger, to avoid increasing and exacerbating problems, and waiting for you to empty the negative energy inside. After your husband calms down, you should talk to him, but without blaming or reproaching him. Then the dialogue between you is calm, sedate and aflani. Be careful not to interfere with any outside party, whether from your relatives or your husband's relatives, in interfering in private marital matters, where the special marital problems must be resolved between the two of you only. This will be easier to solve than the presence of another party. Know that any other external party, if it interferes in the matter, will exacerbate the problem between you. And the intervention of the external party is present to solve the major problems that are excessive only. And if these previous tips did not work, and if your husband's nervousness is severe and frequent, you can resort to a specialist to help solve this problem. And know that you and your husband are different from each other, and for that, you must have a quiet secret to solve all marital problems. And my uncle is very recommended. If you like the video, support me Blake and subscribe to the channel. Tota Rafat.
السلام عليكم. لا تنسوا الإعجاب عليكم.